You can find JDM cars for sale everywhere. Dealers, marketplace, car sales, but what about the auctions? I took a trip down to my local auction yard to check out what kind of different JDM cars I could find and if it's worth spending your hard-earned cash on a deal from the Australian auctions. Is it a bargain waiting to happen or potentially the worst financial decision you may ever make?
First car we're starting off with is this 200 series Land Cruiser. Now we're doing Jap cars today and I feel like this is the best modern Jap four-wheel drive that you can buy. So 200 series, as you guys may know, these came with two different types of V8s, but let's check out the inside first. So this one, I'm gonna hazard a guess and say it's a GXL because it doesn't have leather. It's pretty uncommon to see 200 series without leather and without all the gadgetry like this base model screen. Doesn't even have a leather steering wheel. I mean, when you're paying over 100 grand for a car, you'd sort of expect it to have a leather steering wheel. This is like 79 series territory. You got this rubberized, twisty steering wheel, barely any buttons. Look, the reason why people buy these is because where else in Australia are you going to find a 7 or 8 seat V8 turbo diesel SUV? It's pretty much the only car you can buy. And the engines are pretty good, but they did have a few problems which we'll get to in a sec. But this thing would probably go for easily over 35, 40 grand, even at auction. 6-speed automatic transmission. You got your transfer case switch here, which isn't a normal stick like all the rest of the Land Cruisers that you could get. I do actually like these seats a lot. They feel very nice. They're kind of like a velour material. Let's have a look under the bonnet. Overall, it's in pretty decent condition. A few chips on the windscreen, but you know, it's probably done a lot of country driving. Look at that, V8 D4D. Now, if you don't know what D4D means, it literally just means direct injection. That's why you never saw 1HDs with that D4D badge. It's only like 1KDs, 1GDs, stuff like that. They'll have that direct injection. And they started implementing D4D into petrol cars too. So like newer RAV4s, Toyota 86s as well, you'll find a D4D sticker or a D4D badge, as well as Subaru BRZs because they are direct injection. Looks like it has a twin dual battery setup. There's not much you can really see under here because of the big intercooler on top. Yeah, it looks pretty decent. I wonder what it's here for. I just don't understand why decently nice cars like this 200 series would be at the auctions when you could easily sell this on marketplace without any issues. Maybe people are just getting lazier and that's why all these decent cars are coming up at the auctions. Even though they're all right and you could sell them on car sales or marketplace, people just don't have the time, can't be bothered, so they just send them here. So cars like these don't really go for much under retail price. And right next to this 200 series, there's another Jap car, and this is actually more Japanese than that because this is a Nissan Skyline 350 GT import. Unlike this Australian delivered Land Cruiser, this is actually a Japanese import because we only ever got the Infinity versions of these cars in Australia. I think that these are a great used car, like starter, sports car. If you're trying to just get into cars, you know, modifying them and whatnot, parts are everywhere for them and they use a great engine, great transmission, great rear end, a lot of aftermarket support. Let's head on inside. Let's see if this is actually a manual or an auto because that'll determine the rest of the things I say about this thing. Whoever bought this thing in Japan knew what they were doing. This is a CD009 6-speed manual. These gearboxes are very, very common to swap into a lot of things because for a standard gearbox, they hold a stupid amount of power, easily 400 to 500 kilowatts. And they feel pretty decent. Being a Japanese car as well, it does have that generic Japanese import smell about it. It's not something that you can explain. It just smells like fresh laundry. Another thing which is really weird about most Japanese cars is that they don't come with cruise control. If this is an Infinity, this would have cruise control if it was offered here, but for some reason this thing doesn't have cruise, and a lot of Japanese cars don't, that you'd expect them to. It's failed the cruise control check. But otherwise, very strange dash design, but overall, I would 100% own one of these if they were cheap enough. But let's have a look at that V6 under the bonnet. So here is that VQ35DE. So the difference between the DE and the HR is that the DE only had one throttle body. On HRs and VQ37s, they actually had twin throttle bodies. I've seen a couple of these stickers on Jap imports around the auctions. It must be their like my car, tire and auto over there. Look, they're a decent engine. Nothing really majorly goes wrong with them unless they're abused by degenerate owners. I can't really see any oil leaks. Looks like it's in pretty good condition. The only downside I think to these engines is that there's not a whole lot of room in the engine bay because they're so big and so wide. Accessing anything is like pretty difficult. The only real complaint I have about these 350 GTs is just look at them. They're so ugly. What are these headlights? It's like they were drawing a circle and they went, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the way they look. I like the back a lot more than the front. You have to sort of drop your standards a little bit when you're talking about a car like this, because you have everything good, engine good, transmission, rear end, but the looks just aren't really there. Look at this thing, Lexus LS400. I'm not too sure. Oh, look at that, I said look at this. These are a little bit tricky to see if they are an import or a domestic release vehicle, because what a lot of people do is they, especially in the grey import days in the early 2000s, they used to take off the Toyota badges and put Lexus badges on and just register them as an LS400. But now, because they're actually old enough, they're over 25 years old, you can import Toyota Celsiors to Australia. But this one, I'm gonna hazard a guess, we'll be able to tell from the inside, but I'm gonna hazard a guess that this thing is a Australian delivered LS400. Lexus really pioneered something with this thing. This is a luxury, pretty powerful, reliable sedan that Toyota came up with, or Lexus. It really took off in the early 90s. There wasn't really anything like it, but let's take a look inside and see if it's a Celsior or an LS400. Ooh, you know what this smells like? It smells like your Camry.
My Camry?
Yeah, it has that like fresh smell.
It does.
Yeah, it smells exactly like your Camry. So on the inside, it's in pretty average condition, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, at this point, this came out in the very early 90s, like 91, 92. So at this point, it would be almost 35 years old. To be honest, like for a 35-year-old car, this obviously wasn't looked after the best, but it's pretty decent. The leather's gone a bit hard and there are a few cracks and tears and stuff. But another thing that you'd notice with all of these Lexuses is that they've done 1 billion kilometers. Like every single one you see for sale on Marketplace, they've all done heaps and heaps of Ks. This one is probably no different. I can't tell how many Ks it's done because the cluster is all electronic. These 1UZs are bulletproof. You can boost them, they're very reliable, they sound pretty good. When they're NA, they're not the quickest, but they're so smooth. We do have cruise control, and you can tell that because the speedo goes to 240 Ks an hour, that is definitely an Aussie delivered model. Someone looks like they've gone, but look at this. It literally says Celsior on it. So they probably took that out of a Celsior. I don't think this one has a fridge. All right, what do we got? 4-litre naturally aspirated V8. This is a non-VVTi model, which is famous for having very beefy rods and pistons. Scotty from Street Machine from Carnage, he actually boosted one of these and it made over 500 kilowatts to the wheels with a stock bottom end. So that's pretty impressive. Look at this thing, Nissan Bus. I thought this was a coaster looking at it from afar, but it's actually a Nissan and I don't know what it is. Maybe it says here, Nissan Civilian. Yes, look at that. What engine is in this? Oh, no way. It's got a TD42 in it. Yeah, look. TD42, can you see that? This is a TD42 bus. So when all those P-Plate Patrol owners, when they grow up and they have 1 million kids, can have a TD42 bus and overheat on the highway. Wow. This looks like it used to be a bus and then someone's converted it. Oh look, I can stand up straight.
Mate, this is not ideal. It smells in here. There was a bed in here. It looks like it was converted from a bus to like a motorhome or something. There's like a dining table here, some racks. No toilet though. Oh, look at that. Look at the amp that it's got.
That's a big amp.
Papers. This is pretty tough. TD42.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Let's see if we can open up. I forget what these are called in like vans and motorhomes and stuff. I think it's called a dog kennel or the dog box or some shit. Let's see if we can see the TD42 here. Look at that. It's got a silver top TD42 with an aftermarket turbo. Look at that. How weird is this TD42 bus? Well, if your mate owns a TD42, not only can you say it's a forklift motor, but you can also say it's a bus motor. They chucked a turbo on just to make this bus a little bit more drivable. Got to do the weekly jazz check, see how much water's building up in the back. Yep, that's still putrid for sure. Fucking disgusting. Since we did the Land Cruiser at the start, I've walked over to the delinquency section at the auctions, and look, there's a GU TB45, 4.5 litre petrol. I mean, they're not too bad, but they're just boat anchors. Let's have a look at the inside. What do we got here? This is an ST, so this is like a one up from the base model. First up, I'm glad to say that this has cruise control. So it's passed the cruise control check. We got 2 fuel tanks. We got a sub, we got a submissive one and a dominant one. We've got the 4-speed RE4 gearbox. These are very good gearboxes, I must say. They're very strong. The thing that Patrol has over Toyota 4 drives, especially like the 80 series and the 105, 100 series, is that the drivetrains are a lot stronger than a Toyota. Toyota has the better engines and the better cabs, like the better bodies, but these have a better transmission and better differentials, much stronger. Not a whole lot to talk about in here. It's very barren. But I guess for like a $5,000-$6,000 4x4, you can't really go wrong, especially if you're just getting into 4 drives. Like, this is a pretty decent option. Let's take a look at that TB45. It's a very generic spec. It's like brown, gray, beige, nothing really special. Genuine Nissan bull bar. Also, being a pre-facelift, this has glass headlights and it has these genuine Nissan headlight protectors, because obviously you don't want your glass headlights to break. Oh, look at that. Surprise, surprise, it's on dual fuel. But these are a pretty prehistoric design, to be honest. They're obviously based off a TB42. It is electronically fuel injected like the later TB42s, but it also has a pushrod straight 6. So it's a single cam 4.5 litre petrol. They make no power. They make a bit of torque, but that's only because they're so big. But they're a pretty old design. I mean, the 1FZ, which this car basically competed against, the 80 series Land Cruiser and the 105 series Land Cruiser. They already had a twin cam overhead 4.5 litre straight 6. No push rods, nothing. So I'm not too sure why they kept with such a prehistoric design, because push rod 6s were getting phased out pretty quickly. This would be perfect for like a Barra conversion, I reckon, because the Barra is basically better in every way than a TB, and it's already petrol, so you don't need to convert any diesel fuel system stuff or whatnot. It's in decent condition. I mean, for a 4-wheel drive, like, what do you expect? I do like the barn door design on the back where it opens like this instead of like a Cruiser where it's split vertically instead of horizontally. GU TB45, pretty generic stuff. TB48 is probably the best one. That's the one I would go with, but still not a bad choice.